Good morning, everyone. I'm the editor, as Dermot said, of Wrocław & Cup, which is an English language portal that's been running here for 3 years. And today we're going to talk about some of the problems you might have when you're contacting the media and how to ensure that when you actually send information about your story, that it gets published. So let's have a look at some of these challenges, if I can get onto the next slide. So what challenges are you going to encounter when you are sending information to the media? Well, one of them that I encounter is lazy journalists. I'm a journalist. I don't think I'm that lazy, but a lot of them are. And if you don't do basically all the work for them, there's a good chance that they'll just put the email in the recycle bin and never think about it again. So what can you do? Well, here's a list of things that will really help, if I can get onto the next slide. So make sure that you send them pictures, interesting pictures. Remember, this is the picture that's going to go on the article, that's shared on social media, so it's going to have to be an eye-grabbing picture. If you've got any videos as well, especially if they're on YouTube or Vimeo or something that can be embedded into the page, make sure you send them too so that you can get the full picture. Some people also like to send some background information away from the press release, just to give the journalist some extra facts, extra information that can again make the article that little bit more colourful. You might also need to think about customizing the text for the people who are actually going to read it. If you're sending it to a business website or a business magazine, obviously you're going to try and make that look a little bit more formal, a little bit more professional. Whereas if it's for a student's portal or if it's for a tabloid newspaper, you're going to make it that little bit more casual, a little bit more cool, and a little bit more edgy. So you might also need to think about the type of writing style you're going to adopt when you're contacting particular media outlets. Of course, you'll also need to send that message and say, why is it newsworthy? Why is my startup worthy of being in your paper or your magazine? So we're going to look at that now. What makes your story newsworthy? Well, there are a few things that you need to consider when you're doing that. And I've got a list of a few questions. This is actually taken from The Guardian. If you want to send anything to The Guardian newspaper in the UK, they've got 4 key questions that they consider. So the first one is there anything new in your story or your product? What you're doing, is it something that's not been done before? If it has, instantly it's something worth writing about. Is there anything unusual or unexpected about what you're doing? Is this a product that no one's heard of before, or is it being done in a new or an interesting way? Again, it's something that's going to be more likely newsworthy. Again, would this be of interest to anyone outside your business, to the general public? Because if it's not interesting for everyone, again, there's a good chance that some journalists will say, maybe I'll do something else. So you need to try to make it interesting for the general public, not just for a niche market or a core market. And again, the harshest question is, will anyone actually care? If they see it in their Facebook page, are they just going to scroll down and avoid it? Or will some people consider clicking on it? So you need to think carefully and really cross-examine yourself and your message. Moving on now, we're going to look at how you send that message. So one thing that's quite important is showing character and confidence in your message. If you can do that, and you can show some confidence and you can show some characteristic writing, there's a good chance the journalist is really going to believe you're going somewhere. They're really going to believe you're going to succeed. And if you succeed, then again, it's something that most media outlets will be interested in. I don't know, is Stephen still at the back? We got someone there? Could you click here, just for a moment, and we'll bring up a URL. We're going to show you an example of characteristic writing. I hope we can get this up. Just a link from a Scottish brewery called Brewdog. These guys are like Pinta, doing craft beer. They've been doing it for a while now. And part of the reason for the success is just the way that they write things. It's their marketing. It's very aggressive, and it's very... we'll see in a minute. What we've got here, what we will have in a minute, is a promotion for a hotel, the world's first beer hotel. You're going to have beer taps in every room. I think with beer themed everything, and they haven't even actually made the hotel yet. But within about 48 hours after publishing their own press release, it was already all over the internet. So I'm hoping we can draw this up now. Yes, here we are. Okay. And can you go? Well, we've not got the direct link, but can you go to the lowdown up here? Yeah, next to the logo. You've got brewery, you've got the logo up here, and you've got lowdown right at the top of the page. So if you can get there. Yeah, perfect, okay. And move down page to, keep going, and I think we're a bit lost with that. Okay, let's click on this one anyway here. Which is actually about Brewdog's crowdfunding idea, which is not the same as the beer hotel, but still they write it in a very aggressive way. And we could just pull down a little bit to the first paragraph. Yeah. Unfortunately, the text is a little bit blurry. Could you do a Control Plus and just see if we can make that text a bit bigger? Yeah. Yeah, that's better. We could do it a little bit more. Yeah, here we go. So, instead of saying, for example, we have improved our figures, they said, we have let a wrecking ball fly in that direction, in the tune of over double the amount. So, and we're not finished yet. So they're very clear about what they're doing. They're showing colour, they're showing interest, and that gets general public interested in it, not just the media. So if you want to see a good example of confident writing, I recommend you go to the Brewdog webpage and check out their blog. Okay, can we get back to the presentation? So, yeah, okay. So the second thing is the don'ts, which is the corporate cliches. Everybody seems to say things that have been said so many times before, so many copy and paste press releases that we are proud to announce that. You really need to think about avoiding that and being original. That's going to catch people's eye. And the last thing is, and it's especially important for me at Wrocław and Kat, is the local side of the story. So all of you are here, you're from Wrocław, and if you've got an interesting business idea, that's interesting for me because you're from Wrocław. And we care about Wrocław and what's going on in Wrocław and the people of Wrocław. So if you can present your personal story of your startup and all the hard work that you've done to have success in your startup and to get everything going, that's interesting from the personal side of things. Okay, let's move on now. One of the biggest challenges is not just writing the press release, but making sure that the journalist actually clicks on the email and reads what you're doing in the first place, because some people do not even get that far. Let's look at what we can do to avoid that problem. So just like when you're sending an email to your colleague at work, you've got to think carefully about the subject heading. Make sure you've got some killer headline, a short but sweet sentence, well not a sentence of course, but 2 or 3 words that's going to catch the eye of the journalist. Not only that, but next you're going to have a good first or second sentence. Someone might like your subject reading, they might click on the email, and then after one sentence they decide, this is boring, I'm just going to read my next email, my next press release. So make sure that the first couple of lines that you are writing includes the important information and why it's worthy of their attention. You've also got to make it easy to read. A lot of people write lots of text, one very, very long paragraph that's really tough to digest. Short lines, just a few simple paragraphs with a clear message is enough. And also, when you're using numbers in your press release, don't just put the number full stop. Try to think about what that number actually means. If you've got 100,000 people subscribed to your service, instead of just saying 100,000 people, you can say, that's 100,000 people, that's double the size of the National Stadium in Warsaw. You can fit 2 people over in the National Stadium of Poland. So that gives people the chance to visualize that number and actually feel what that number means. So I would recommend that you try to do something like that. Lastly, there's a few other things that you might want to think about or be aware of. Some of them, unfortunately, you can't do a lot about. If it's with a magazine and they've got a huge sponsorship with a hotel and you're trying to promote your hotel, there's a conflict of interest there, and there might not be much you can do about that. But the more people you contact, for sure, they're not all going to have a sponsorship with a hotel, so you're not going to have a problem. So try to contact as many people as possible. You'll also need to think about when you send your email. If somebody sends me an email and there's a huge crisis ongoing in Wrocław and I've got to write articles day in, day out about this, possibly a startup press release is going to be down my agenda. So if there really is something big going on, you might be better advised to just take your time and send it on a slow news day. And lastly, a lot of people will just send an email to TVN or to Gazeta Wyborcza, but not to an individual journalist. And sometimes it can actually be more effective if you hunt through the web page, you find articles by individual journalists who you like, see if you can find their Twitter account or find their email address and contact them personally. And then you're not waiting for that email to be forwarded on to them, they've already got it. So that could be another way for you to get more direct contact with the journalists themselves. And that is pretty much that, to be honest. If you want to contact me, here are my details, and I'll happily speak to you later. If any of you have got a good idea for a startup, like I said, we're interested in local stories. So if you want to get it in English and get it out there to the international media, don't hesitate to talk to me.
Thank you very much, Gregor. So, one of the bits that I like most here is that journalists are lazy. So can you talk me through the process for you guys to actually get content up, and when you're working on it and how long that takes?
Well, I can give you another example that actually I forgot to mention. One of the guys who comes here regularly is Parry. Maybe you know the Indian gentleman who's done quite a bit of work here in the past. And once Parry needed to have a promo for his Indian Colours Festival. And I was on holiday at the time. In fact, I was on a bus from Riga to Vilnius. And I didn't have a laptop or anything with me. Now, normally if someone sent me that information, I just say, no way, this is impossible, I'm on holiday, I'm too busy, I'm not really interested. But Parry provided me with a good quality press release that was written in a good style. I only needed to make 1 or 2 edits, and he also sent me the JPEG file in the exactly correct dimensions for my website and the correct format. And I was actually able to get this published and on social media just using my smartphone and the internet connection on the bus. So that's an example of how if you do all the things right and you do 95% of the work for the journalist, then they'll just say, oh, this is a free article for me. I don't need to do any work, and I've got a story, so I might as well put it online.
So again, he did most of the work and he contacted you direct.
Sorry?
He contacted you directly, it didn't go into a general...
Yeah, exactly. But it's easy for me because, you know, I pull all the strings at Uncut, and if you send an email to us, it goes to me first. But when you're at a larger organisation who've got, you know, several hundred journalists or at least a dozen journalists on their books, then of course it makes sense to try to contact them individually.
And again, in terms of like print journalists, any tips on how to do the same tricks for them?
Again, with print journalists, I found with newspapers, because I did do a bit of work with newspapers in the past. There was a free newspaper here. One of the problems is that the shorter your article, size is a problem on print media because they need advertising space, and the message needs to be delivered in a very short and sweet fashion. On the internet, it doesn't really matter if it's 4 or 5 paragraphs. It's like 0.0001 of a kilobyte. But if it's on a page and it takes up another couple of paragraphs, then you've got a problem. So if I was to send a press release to a print media, I would make sure that you didn't have any unnecessary information or blizz-blab on there.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions for Gregor? Okay, so...
one question here. How short should it be? Like, how many letters?
Okay, it's a good question. Everybody has a different idea, but I tend to take the view of the Guardian newspaper. If you just do a simple Google, how to write a good press release, you'll find plenty of information, and one of them says around about 300 to 400 words, which they say is sort of between 3 to 5 paragraphs. And if you aim at that, then you've got enough words in there to be able to deliver your message.
Okay, so the key takeaways there are make it as easy as possible for these people, make sure that you know the message that you're looking to get across, and also make sure that you're personalising it for the audience of the newspaper or magazine who's going to publicise it, because, as Gregor said, for them, your key thing is the local connection. Is that right?
Yeah, we're trying, for us Uncut, we're trying to connect to the people. So we want to have that local vibe, and we want to write about the startup community because we're also startups, so we've got a bit of sympathy, and we also cooperate with TechSaturdays. So if people come to me and they've got a good message, I'm happy to deliver it.
Okay, thanks very much. So Gregor is going to be here and available for you to have a chat to during the rest of our networking and other sessions. So thank you very much, Gregor. Big hand.